Auntie.
Oh, good. So you can hear me well, huh?
Yeah.
Very good. This AirPod wasn't working properly earlier. So, good evening to everyone.
Good evening, sister.
Good evening.
So, how was your practice for the past 2 weeks now that you have completed the Language of God lesson 1 and lesson 2? Any experiences, any thoughts, any comments, any questions? Did you receive the Murli's in your email?
Sister, I did. My name is Manju. Yes, I did.
You received, great.
Yeah.
And you reviewed everything?
I reviewed it, yes. Yes. I have a question, sister.
Yeah.
What does the sentence, boat of the people of Bharat has sunk mean?
Well, it's not just the people of Bharat in in the sense of just the Indians,
Okay.
because Bharat was where the Golden Age began.
Okay.
You know, it's the original time.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of us who have been part of Bharat, part of the Golden Age, and then we have dispersed and we went all over the world.
Okay.
But because the Golden Age began from there, that was the number one place, which at this point it's known as the current India, because, you know, if you notice, Bharat was much larger than just India. You know,
Yes.
just up to some years ago, we had India and Pakistan together. And then there, you know, that whole great Persia was part of it. There were so many other lands that were part of Bharat, but then they all got broken into pieces. But the maximum corruption is from that place.
Okay.
So when the boat has sunk, means that, you know, it has reached the rock bottom.
Okay. Okay.
And that's the place that needs the first attention, and then of course the rest of the world also needs the attention, because
I understand.
corruption is everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else joined us recently? So we're going to cover Language of God lesson 3. Last time, you know, with the newer group, we have covered something which I just wanted to go over it with this class now, to explain what does the Murli contain, you know, because, you know, the Murli does contain the basic 4 pillars of Raja Yoga. I remember last time when we covered it, Bob, you got it very well. Do you remember the 4 pillars, Bob? Are you on silent? Mute, right? I don't hear you.
Is it about the knowledge and the
Right.
yoga
Yes.
service?
Dharna and Seva.
Dharna and Seva. So what you do is, you, like I was requesting, if you can make your page into 4 sections, you know, like one line in the middle and a line this way. You have this plus sign, but then in each section you have your different pillars or different subjects. One is the yoga, which is our union, the connection, relationship that we have with God. And the second one is yoga, Gyan, which is knowledge or spiritual awareness, spiritual understanding, wisdom, truth primarily. And then the third one is Dharna, which of course, Dharna means, all the virtues that we listen to in the Murli, all the values that Baba talks about, the virtues and the instructions that he talks about, that we need to implement that in our day-to-day activities. And it's sort of like we need to develop that value-based, the spiritual value-based personality, the spiritual value-based expression. How do we express ourselves? So through Dharna, and that's the third subject. And the fourth box would be Seva, or service. And that is all the activities that we perform throughout the day, all the actions, activities, and the expressions that we bring to the world. And everything that we do is to bring benefit to myself first, and then bring benefit to others. We might have had a lot of history in our life. And we do, not that we might, we do have a lot of history. But this is the time when we need to begin to change our intellect and sort of like align it with God's intellect, and to see things from the way He sees, because He sees us as equal. He sees the souls as equal. So the reason I'm asking you to do this is when you're listening to the Murli, see which point belongs to yoga, which point belongs to knowledge. Because this way you're beginning to strengthen your processing, your thinking process, strengthen the intellect, strengthen the separating, the discerning power. It's a very good exercise if you're able to do that, if you can remember it and use in your notebook. So as I'm listening, as I'm reading to you the Murli, just listen. And again, one important question is, how do I listen to Murli? How would you listen to Murli? What is the requirement for you to listen to the Murli?
To be in a meditative state.
To be what? I didn't hear
to be in to put your mind in a meditative state.
Yes, to put your mind in a meditative state, which another word for becoming, having awareness of being a soul. Not having the awareness of I'm listening, not I, Liza, or I, Bob, or I, Sudha, is not listening. The soul is listening. The soul. With the awareness of being a soul, and also with the awareness of being a child of God. Very important to hold this awareness, being a child of God. And also being as a spiritual student. As a spiritual student. So think about it. When you're listening, I am a spiritual student. The spiritual father is speaking to the spiritual student. The spiritual father is speaking to the spiritual child. And the supreme soul is speaking to the soul. So hold that awareness. It has a completely different feel if you hold that awareness. So this is how do I listen to Murli. Okay. And how can we learn from the Murli? It's very connected to Dharna. How can we learn from Murli? It's by
Knowledge.
yeah,
Knowledge.
exactly, by knowledge, by studying the knowledge that we receive and implementing it into our lives. It's one thing, again, to listen to the Murli. It's another thing to make it alive in your day-to-day activities. Bring it into your action. It's like, you know, like I shared this example before, that if you are studying to be a doctor, if you're studying and studying and studying and studying, oh, you're a perfect student for being a surgeon. But if they take you to the operating room, can you operate? If you don't have practical examples, if you did not do some practical tests. So we need to study, but we also need to implement into our lives. And that's how we need to understand that this is how we learn the Murli, from the Murli. Now, this Murli is the last two Murlis that we were hearing was Sakar Murli. Sakar Murli are Murlis that are spoken before 1969.
69.
Yeah, before 1969. This one is Avyakt Murli, which right after Brahma Baba left the body and attained the angelic form, attained his perfection status. He was combined with the Supreme Father, and together known as Bab Dada, which Bab means father, which is the Supreme Soul, Bab, the Supreme Soul, and Dada is the elder brother, referring to Brahma Baba. Bab Dada, the two souls, you know, they enter after 1969. They enter the body of Daddy Gulzar to impart or to give the knowledge to all the children. This term Bab Dada comes, you know, about after Brahma Baba became Avyakt or angelic. Avyakt also means angelic, subtle, has become subtle. Because before that, Brahma Baba was not perfect yet. So Shiv Baba, the Supreme Soul, was giving all the knowledge, you know, and speaking the Murli. And even Brahma Baba was the student and was listening to it, even though he was the instrument. And also in there were times when Shiv Baba was speaking. Sometimes Brahma Baba shared his own experience too. So it's there were sometimes the dance of knowledge going back and forth between what Baba said and what Brahma Baba said. The one that we're listening today is the Avyakt Murli, and the title is The Way to Defeat Maya. The Way to Defeat Maya. Any thoughts? Because we all know that we all have Maya, one way or another, whether it's anger, fear.
Ignore it.
What is it?
Ignore.
Ignoring?
Yeah.
Oh, the way to defeat Maya is to ignore Maya. Okay.
One way.
So let me give you an example. If a child is home and is crying and crying and crying and you ignore, will the crying go away?
No, but that's not a Maya.
That's not
a Maya if the child is crying.
But the
But
whole aspect, because Maya is very clever. Maya gets to us in many different ways.
Right.
It's very subtle and very clever and very mischievous.
Yeah.
So ignoring will not necessarily quiet her down.
Okay.
It's sort of like if you're on a diet.
Mm.
Maya comes in a form of, well, you know, one time to have this pizza is not bad. One time, it's just one time. Then we go back to the diet again. So, you know, if you ignore it, that desire is not going to go away. So the way to defeat Maya is what? What else? Any other methods?
Willpower.
to be constantly, oh, sorry.
To be constantly what? Sorry?
You can be constantly aware of your expressions that you benefit yourself and somebody else.
To be constantly aware of the expression that you need to bring benefit to yourself and to others.
Yeah, for example, when you say if you ignore the crying child, you're not doing justice by doing seva to the child who is crying, right?
Right, exactly.
So
Have a stronger willpower. I don't know.
Stronger willpower. Okay, very good. Good answers. All of them are good and correct. It's just that Baba always has his own answers too. You know, I mean, like there were 1 or 2 times I was able to guess, and I was aligned with what he said, but always I had my answers, you know, and he had his answers, but his answers are on point. So the way to defeat Maya is to use your power of churning, which has to do with that box of knowledge, to use the power of churning. We'll talk about that later, you know, about the power of churning. Today, Bab Dada was looking at the various ways in which you children make effort. He was seeing your zeal, enthusiasm, and love for a meeting. A meeting means the meeting between the soul and the Supreme Soul. Always, he talks about this meeting, and the meeting is always between the two souls, the soul and the Supreme Soul, the children and the Father, the Supreme Father. He was seeing your devotion in constant cooperation in any task, and the effort you take to forge all relationships with one alone. And that's another thing. He is always encouraging us to explore all the relationships that we have here and you know, on earth with other people. We have a relationship with a father, with a mother. Like I don't have really a very easy relationship with father because I never had a father. So I cannot see even Baba as a father, you know. But he is encouraging us to have all the relationships, friend, companion, service companion, even as a child and as a boss, you know. So all the relationships that we're having one-on-one with different souls, he's encouraging us to have all relationships. So when he says that, and the effort you take to forge or to form all the relationships with the one alone, on seeing all of this effort, Bab Dada was pleased with you children, but as well as feeling love for you children, he also felt mercy for you. Now, as I'm reading, don't forget the boxes. Write any points that are related to any of those 4 pillars. Just, I want to see, because this is how you're training the intellect to hear the right points, you know, that belongs to the right pillar. And remember, all these 4 pillars need to be balanced, need to be equal in usage, in application, in practice. Otherwise, your chair is not going to let you sit comfortably. It keeps gonna be wobbling. And that's the chair of your intellect. Your intellect keeps, it's gonna go in many directions. So all of you are very busy in making effort to attain your aim according to your capacity. You all have the same desire of going fast and coming first. Now, that's an expression that Baba uses often, which is a beautiful and very promising expression, because we are some of the ones that have come in quite late into this knowledge and into this understanding, into this process of purification and perfection. But Baba says those who come last, they go first. You know, I give you one small example, a practical example that happened to me in when I was in Madhuban in India, Mount Abu. We were going to have a meeting with the head of the Brahma Kumaris of USA, Sister Mohini, and it was in a hall, one of the halls that they had in the in a training section in one of the campuses. Then I was totally at the back. You know, like I couldn't even see the front. I couldn't see the stage. I couldn't see anybody. All I saw was heads, you know, in front of me. And then suddenly they announced that this room is too small, so move to the room next door because the room next door is double the size. So I was the last one. And I got out and I went and I was the very first one. And Sister Mohini, she said, you see how practically we received the demonstration of how the last ones will go first. And that's when I realized that, yeah, that's true, it's possible. So the ones who have been in the organization for, I don't know, 60, 70, 40, 50 years, I was here maybe for me, I was 28 years. You know, you are here for a few weeks, but you have no idea how quickly you can be the first. So hold that thought because it's so possible. You know, first of all, in Baba's system, nothing is impossible. But understand that how is it possible? That was the practical example. How I was at the end and I was at the beginning. So Baba is saying that you all have the same desire of going fast and coming first. Day and night, you do everything with just this one concern. All of you have the same aim and you all have love for one and keep the companionship of one. However, some of you are Mahavirs, whereas others have to work very hard for everything. So now, Baba is using the word Mahavir. I know what Mahavir means, but I didn't know exactly what it meant. So I asked Sister Vinu, and she sent me the history of Mahavir, and which was very nice, very helpful. And she was telling me that, she said that Mahavir is the founder of Jainism, Jainism, right? And the founder was known for the efforts that he put into, the intense efforts that he made to overcome his senses. So no desire can enter him, and no desire can influence him, right? This was the origin of the word Mahavir, but his methods were quite rough. Here Baba is using this word Mahavir because he's using it as an example for us to know that those who are making determined effort to free themselves from the influences of not only the sense organs, but also from, you know, all the vices, and connecting themselves, you know, their intellect with Baba. So one is to overcome, and the other one is to connect with Baba, because Baba is the one who fulfills all your desires, the desire of the soul. And of course, when your desires are pure and authentic, it gets fulfilled right away. So the intense effort that we need to make, it's just make sure that we're making the connection with Baba, you know, and making the effort to overcome all that is holding me back from that connection. So Maha means great, and Veer means warrior. So it's like Mahavir is the great warrior, and it refers to those who are making constant and intense effort, serious effort. Like you are not wishy-washy. We're not if you know, iffy. So right now we are on a battlefield. Baba calls this, you know, the field of action and the field of battle. And what happens is that he gave many times examples of some are on the battlefield on foot, and some are on horses, and some are on seated. You know, they are fighting while they're seated on an elephant. You know, so the reason that he was mentioning about the elephant, and that's the one that he is interested for us to be on, you know. But it says we have different forms of army, you know, on the battlefield. And seated on elephants brings, because when you're seated on top, it brings you a completely different and a wider perspective and a vision of what's happening ahead of you. And they are above the battlefield, and their advantage is that they feel they have full power and strength to enter into the battlefield fearlessly. So 1 minute, excuse me. So when Baba is talking about, you know, Mahavir, this is the one who would be the elephant rider. And that's why he says that, however, some of you are Mahavirs, whereas others have to work very hard for everything. The ones on foot, they have to work very hard. Some are easy effort makers, whilst others are effort-making yogis. Some are an embodiment of all attainments, whereas others are still busy in trying to overcome the obstacles of Maya. The sound coming from the minds of some is that they have attained everything. Whereas the sound coming from the minds of others is that they are still trying to attain whatever it is that they need. Some experience Baba's constant company, whereas others are still trying to make Baba their constant companions. Do you see the difference between the two types of children that Baba is listing? This is what he's observing. The ones who are easy effort makers, the ones who are intense effort makers, the ones who already have attained everything, the ones are the ones who are knowing, holding that remembrance. They're staying in the remembrance of the one. They are in that meditative mode, in that natural meditative mode of knowing the self and knowing the Supreme Soul. Having, forming that relationship with him. All the relationships. And you know what? You don't have to have all the relationships at once. Do we have all our relations in one room at once? Do we have our boss and our children and our spouse and our parents and our, I don't know, the judge and this and that? Do we have them all in one room?
No.
No. So, but one-on-one, we have many different relationships at any given time. So meditation is that. Start creating one relationship and work with that. You are my father. You are my best friend. Let's work. Like I work with him as best friend for a long time because that was the easiest for me. So you work with the easy ones and then you move to the difficult ones. You know, you take turn, take time. So although you know this and even try to stop yourself from doing it, you still get caught up by it. This is because Maya comes in the form of, this is a new word, Jani Jananhar. Jani Jananhar means the one who knows all secrets. I remember once I told my teacher, you know what? I feel like there is something in my head that always knows what I'm thinking. Like as soon as I decide to start writing, you know, like I want to write. I have been wanting to write for many years. As soon as I start writing, it knows I want to write and it creates another project for me. You know, so that's why it's Janin Janahar. You know, so it's the one who knows all secrets. Maya, this is because Maya comes in the form of Jani Jananhar. She knows that the main support of all of you Brahmin souls is is the yoga of your intellect. The main support of you Brahmin souls is the yoga of your intellect. Let me just make a note on this. So are you also taking notes, you know, putting it in different boxes, whatever how you're hearing, like for example, this line, which box would it belong to?
Yoga.
Very good. So keep writing it down and then we will do some checking later. She knows that it is only, Maya, knows that it is only when your intellect is divine that you can enjoy having a meeting with the Father. So first of all, she attacks your intellect and makes it weak. I don't know how many of you have seen Karate Kid, the movie. It's a old movie.
Yes. I have seen
There was at the end a scene when he had his knee, I don't know, his knee was hurting and the enemy knew exactly where to hit to immobilize him. And that's Maya. Maya will do the same thing with our intellect. And she will attack your intellect and make it weak. How does she do this? Very good thing to know, actually. How does she attack? How does Maya attack? How does your weakness attack you?
push the barrier.
What is it?
Push the barrier that what you want to achieve. Put the obstacles.
Right, put the obstacles. In what form?
It depends what it is. If it's like diet, for example, it's a temptation.
But all the obstacles have something in common.
deceive.
Is it desire?
Desire, right? And the desire happens as a result of
Your wants?
your wants, right? You're getting closer. It's getting hotter and hotter.
It deceives you.
It deceives you, right? Right. So anyway, how does she do this? She attacks, first of all, she attacks your intellect and makes it weak. How does she do this? The special arrow of Maya is that of waste thoughts.
What is it?
Waste thoughts.
Waste thought.
When you get caught up in all kinds of thinking, like, why didn't she call me? What did I say to her? Why is she avoiding me or ignoring me? We're in a lockdown. What has she got to do? Why isn't she picking up the phone and just text me? You see, we get caught up in waste thought, then we start making stories. Oh, maybe it's because I remember last month I didn't laugh at her joke, and I think if she got upset, and this is this, and then we start creating all kinds of waste thoughts. Same thing.
Sister, then that's actually your memory, your past memory?
No, it's not the past memory. It's even you're creating all these thoughts, because just because you did, whether you did or you didn't laugh at, for example, that person's joke, that's irrelevant. If she didn't call, maybe she's busy. But we start having waste thoughts, and waste thoughts will make the intellect weak.
Okay.
And that's how Maya weakens the intellect. Will take you into a spin of waste thoughts. Okay. And waste thoughts is thoughts that we have we are not controlling it, and we are allowing all kinds of little plots and little scenarios to be created in our mind, which makes us upset and makes us sick. You know, like, you know, I had a relative here visiting and staying with me, and her son was not responding to her calls or texts or whatever. And she started thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening with him. Maybe maybe he joined a gang, or maybe he became a drug addict, or maybe he's just avoiding me because he doesn't want me to know that he's doing something wrong, and this and that. And then, of course, you know, when she gets worried, then her immune system goes down, then she gets sick. And it affects, that's why the word psychosomatic, it has to do with whatever our mind thinks and creates, then it affects our body and we get sick. At this point, you know, with this spiritual knowledge that we have, no sickness happens by itself. It happens as a result of the amount of thought, amount of power that we give to the negative or wasteful thoughts. And that's why Baba is saying the special arrow of Maya is that of waste thoughts. She uses this arrow to make your intellect weak. Then, because your intellect is weak, it is easily influenced. Always, influence happens when we're weak. For example, no matter how much they take me and put me in the middle of the liquor store, I'm not going to buy anything because I just don't have any interest. But You know, if I have weakness for it and I'm in the middle of it, and not in the middle, I'm passing by it, it pulls me, it calls me. You know, sometimes I remember I was walking with a friend, we were walking in Whole Food, and I was passing because, you know, there were too much traffic in other aisles. So I passed through the liquor aisle, and she said, no, no, I'm not coming through this aisle. Why? She said, because I don't want to buy any wine. I was like, okay, don't buy. She said, no, no, I cannot pass by it because then I'll have to buy it. That's weakness. And the weakness, when there is weakness, it is easily influenced. When you are weak, you are unable to do what you want. So even though you want to do something, you are unable to do it. The reason for this is that you don't use the power that you have received from the Almighty Authority. Almighty Authority, another name for God, for the Supreme Soul. The special power is the power of churning. You don't know how to use the power to churn. The power to churn is nourishment to keep your intellect divine. When you don't have proper nourishment, you become weak. Even physically, we know that that's a fact. You don't eat proper food, you become weak. You don't eat food, you become weak. Your blood pressure goes down, goes up, you know, you get anemic, you faint, etc., etc. So we don't want to get weak, so we need to have proper nourishment. When you don't have proper nourishment, you become weak. Then, because you are weak, you become influenced. The result of the power to churn is vast. The result of the power to churn is vast, but you don't know the right method. From the moment you received your Brahman birth from Baba, and as soon as you understood Baba's knowledge, as soon as you started listening to Baba's Murli, that's your spiritual birth. And that's why he says that from the moment you received your Brahman birth from Baba, you also received very many titles. And I would say this is the only place in any organization in the world that you receive the titles before you earn it. You know, everywhere else you have to work at it. You have to become worthy of receiving the titles, receiving the medals, receiving the recognition. Here you have received it even before you have earned it. So Baba said that from the moment you received your Brahman birth from Baba, you also received very many titles. If these were to be listed, they would make a very big rosary. You had the practice of remembering these even on the path of bhakti. On the path of, remember bhakti? What does it mean?
Devotion.
On the path of devotion. Bhagats, remember these. Bhagats are what? Who are bhagats? So if bhakti is devotion, what is bhagat?
Devotees.
Devotees, right? So the bhagats, remember these, was turning each bead. So you know, when on the path of devotion, we all have done something like that. You know, we started repeating a mantra, you know, keep turning the beads, you know, praying and bowing a lot. Many different ways we have done, you know, we have been a devotee of something or someone. So here he says bhagats remember these whilst turning each bead on the path of bhakti. You had the power to remember, and on the path of gyan, which is the path of knowledge, you have the power of what? Any guesses? The power of awareness. Power of awareness. The power of Gyan is the power of awareness, because we do everything with awareness. We do everything with understanding. Even our connection with Baba, it's a live connection. It's a two-way connection. It's not like you know, in prayers, it was always me talking to God and me asking from God. But now in meditation, I am connecting with the Supreme Soul, and there is this two-way relationship, and there is silence in me that I can even hear his answers. I can hear his love. I can hear his messages coming to me. So, since Bhagat souls don't forget their power, which is the, you know, the power to remember and to spin the beads and all that, and are able to attain temporary success through temporary methods, why do you knowledgeable souls forget the way to use your power of awareness? If you were to become aware of even one of your titles at Amrit Vela, and to continue to churn the title, that title, then by using this power of churning, your intellect would remain constantly powerful. Everybody knows what is Amrit Vela?
Yes. 4 o'clock in the morning.
Just 4 o'clock in the morning?
Early morning.
Right, but what does it mean? Amrit
4 to 5 meditation.
What does Amrit mean?
Nectar.
Nectar. And what is Vela?
Power of nectar.
Time.
Time, right? So it's the early morning hours, especially like you said, between 4 to 4:45, which is the best time to experience the nectar. And you know what is nectar? It's very sweet, right? So it's to experience the sweetness and the love that you have with all the relationships with God. That is Amrit Vela. It is the soul that experiences all the attainments of all the relationships with God. So that happens in that quiet time of early morning hours. And this is where he's talking about, you know, that how we need to do it at Amrit Vela. If you were to become aware of even one of your titles, like for example, one of the titles is Master Almighty Authority. Another title is Special Jewel, you know, or the Original Jewel. So, I mean, there is a list of titles, you know, if I can look it up, I'm going to send it to Vinu so she can send it to all of you. You take a title, and take a title that makes sense to you. If some of them, you know, they have a Hindi name to it and doesn't make sense to, you know, the souls in the Western body, ignore it. Or if you get attracted to it and you wonder what it is, then ask about it. But work with that title and churn it during that time with Baba. So if you were to become aware of even one of your titles at Amrit Vela and to continue to churn it, then by using this power of churning, your intellect would remain constantly powerful. Maya cannot attack a powerful intellect. So your intellect would not become influenced. This is the main reason why your intellect becomes weak. Therefore, the way to cure it is to increase your power of churning. To have the power to churn means to remain aware of your titles. That's beautiful to know. I mean, it's a good tip that Baba is giving us. To have the power to churn means
Sister, can you give us one example, please?
of which one? The titles or?
Like one title and the power to churn it all day.
For example, the title Master Almighty Authority. He gave us this title. He said, you are a Master Almighty Authority. I'm just the Almighty Authority. And so you start churning on this title and you're saying that, you know, I'm in the company of the Almighty Authority. And he's telling me that I am the Master Almighty Authority. What does that mean? Master is the master. You know, is the Raj, like Raj Yoga is the master of yoga. So this Almighty means what? All might means power. Almighty means all powers. And I am the master of all powers. And then Master Almighty Authority. That means I have the authority to use all these powers. I am the master with the authority to use all these powers. It gives you such a high feeling of self-respect when you start working with these titles and you start churning. What does churning mean? Remember, I mean, one of the things that I've been told, you know, about churning is how you take the milk,
Yeah.
and you keep churning and churning and churning until it turns into butter. So
Yes.
you change something from one thing to another, and you turn it into high quality level. So when you're thinking about you as a Master Almighty Authority, you start feeling, wow, there is a lot of power in that. Imagine when you have the authority to exercise all the powers and you're the master of all these powers. Doesn't that give you a very powerful sense of attainment?
Yes.
So this is churning, and this is sitting and thinking and saying, oh my God, this is, I Master Almighty Authority. I'm in the company of the Almighty Authority. And he has called me Master Almighty Authority. So it makes sense why,
Thank you.
yes, sure. It makes sense. Why is it that Baba wants us to churn? Because if I don't churn, the intellect will get caught up in waste thoughts. And when it gets caught up in waste thoughts, what happens? Then I get weak, then easily I get influenced by everyone and everything. I get influenced by news. I get influenced by advertisings. I get influenced by my family members. You know, like when I remember I used to want to come to the center, and my family always used to say, why do you want to go to the center? Why don't you stay here and play cards with us? So if the intellect gets weak, then gets influenced and say, oh, well, okay, I'll stay and play cards. But how am I going to improve the intellect if I get influenced?
Sister, I have a question.
Yeah.
Am I then also artificially inflating my intellect to believe I am the master? Because I still am not attained that level.
No, you have not attained that level. Who is speaking?
Manju.
Okay, you have, Manju has not attained that level, but the soul has.
Okay.
So let's keep the awareness of I, the soul. I, the soul, am Master, Almighty Authority, not Manju. Manju, nobody cares about Manju. Nobody
Okay.
cares about Liza.
Okay.
You know, we come and we go, but the soul is eternal.
Okay.
That's another title. The soul is eternal.
Sure.
So, okay. And then when Baba is saying that, keep all the many points that you have experienced and attained through remembrance in your consciousness. So you have now taken down some of the points, right? So Baba is saying, keep all the many points that you have experienced and attained through remembrance in your consciousness. Therefore, the method of increasing the power to churn is so vast. You can churn whatever you want. You can choose whatever you like. Then whilst churning, you will easily be able to remain in the stage of being totally absorbed in Baba's love. Then instead of being influenced, you will always have with you the mantra that disciplines your mind and thus defeat Maya. Maya will surrender to you for all time. Your first devotee of the confluence age will be Maya. Only when you become Master God, small m, small g, only when you become Master God will she, Maya, become your devotee. Meaning that Maya will not have anymore any power to influence you. So will bow to you, will surrender to you, and will not challenge you, will not test you, will not deceive you. If you yourself are just a devotee, then whose devotee could Maya become? So will you become a devotee or a master God? See, that's another title you can churn in the morning at Amrit Vela or throughout the day. But once you do it at Amrit Vela, it gives you that memory and the strength to work throughout the day. Hold that energy, that power with you throughout the day. So, will you become a devotee or a master God? You have been told that the easy method to attain this is to increase your power to churn. To those who are constantly stable in their powerful form, and make Maya their devotee, to those who are constantly decorated how? Decorated by all the titles that Baba gives us. You know how when in the army, the generals, those who have attained so much, you know, they have so many decorated medals here hanging, you know, on their coat. Here we are decorated by all the titles that he has given us. And we need to use those titles so we get decorated. So to those who are constantly decorated, meaning you're constantly aware of your titles, to those who control Maya with the mantra that disciplines the mind, to those who remain powerful by having constant awareness, to the almighty souls, that is love, remembrance, and namaste. So that's the end of the Murli of the third language of God. And I just put down here some of the vocabularies. You will receive the file, you know, the Murli. Some words that we have heard today was Babdada, meeting, going fast and coming first, Mahavir, attainments, spiritual birth, Jani Jananhar, the arrow of Maya, power of churning, Bhagats, devotees, right? Amrit Vela, aware of all titles, all forms, decoration of all virtues, Master God versus devotees. And the two names that I heard today in this Murli for God was the bestower of blessings and the Almighty Authority. Did you hear any other names for God? So one of the ways that I would suggest, you know, for you to increase your power of churning, because power of churning is absolutely essential. And it's, as it says, power of churning, it is also very powerful. It is a power. So, for example, you take one line from the Murli, like here, for example, Baba said, some of you are Mahavirs, whereas others have to work very hard for everything. I take that line, I put it on top, look at it, think about it, and I start writing, just writing. What does this mean? You know, like when we were in school and they used to give us a theme and then we had to write a composition about it. They didn't tell us how to write. They just told us write composition and then they would grade us. Here we don't get graded. But what we're getting is we're starting to get a stronger and stronger and stronger intellect and a much more divine and refined intellect. So do that for the next week. Make the time to sit down and write a paragraph. You know, like, you know, I have this Murli here. You see the paragraph is this long. Maybe you can make it this short if it's too much for you. But you can also write a whole page. It's up to you. But right, you know, you have already the last two Murlis. Tonight you will receive this third one too. You have three Murlis to pick a line and to write about it, because, and then tomorrow pick another line and another line. You will start seeing how your perspective begins to change. You look at the world differently. You start thinking differently. And your thoughts are changing, are getting filtered. You're not anymore powerlessly having waste thoughts. You know, waste thoughts can also happen because of so much that happened to me in the past. Dramas and stories and traumas that happened to me in the past. So I end up always in my mind being, you know, having the weak intellect. I would go on and repeat the sceneries, repeat the story, repeat the circumstances. I don't let it go. But here, Baba doesn't want us to let go. He wants us to start working with a different way of thinking. Because as you start thinking in a much more elevated way, the others will go away. Just think about gardening. If you keep pulling out weeds, that's it. In few weeks, what will happen? More weeds will grow, right? But if you keep planting new seeds, you plant the rose bush, you plant the mint bush. As they start growing, the weeds will go away, will be replaced. You pull the weeds out, but you're not anymore focusing only on weeds. You're focusing on growing something beautiful and powerful and fruitful and fragrant. So that by itself will become very, very motivational for you to, increase your enthusiasm in churning. So keep churning, do your churning on a daily basis. In the morning when you're meditating, work with the titles and see how much your focus changes. And then maybe you can share with me next week. Hopefully you will have a story to tell because you're doing your homework. And your homework is for you. It's not for me. Any questions?
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Om Shanti. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. So I plan to wake up tomorrow at 4. Is there a mantra that you can suggest that I can use to discipline my mind?
Not a mantra, but work with one of the titles. How about today, as Baba gave us in this Murli, Master
Yes.
God, Master God.
I just repeat that. I just repeat.
Don't repeat that. Think about it, what it means.
Okay.
Why is he telling me I am Master God?
Okay.
And have a conversation with him.
Okay.
With the Supreme Soul, and then in between get quiet and see what is he communicating with you, because there is nothing more powerful than thought vibration.
Yes.
And you can receive that, but you have to be quiet. And meaning by quiet, I mean not to have tired thoughts, waste thoughts, sleepy thoughts, thoughts from the last night, whatever, maybe how you went to bed, if you had an argument, or if you watched a scary movie, and your intellect goes back into what you just saw.
Sure.
And don't think about what is going to happen, oh, I have to get up and I have to do this, I have to go shopping before everybody wakes up, I have to make breakfast, and I have to do. No, that 45 minutes it's reserved for you by God. So do appreciate and honor the fact that he's giving you his time, so you give your time to him.
Thank you, sister.
Any other questions or thoughts? Can anybody share one of your Murli points, your favorite points, and what box did it belong to?
So I put power of Gyan is power of awareness in box number 2. That's in the Gyan box.
Power of Gyan is power of
Awareness.
Yes, and that is power of Gyan. Which box did you put it in?
I put in the Gyan box because it's defined Gyan.
Power of Gyan. Correct. That's correct. That belongs to Gyan box.
Okay.
Very good. Anyone else?
Yeah, I did power to churn and discipline your mind in the dharana box.
Yes, very good. That's true. So as you start listening to the Murli and you write down the points, start putting them in different boxes, because this way, if you need to have a yoga point, you go and you check, a couple of yoga points to strengthen your yoga. If you want any dharna points, then you know what the dharna is. So service points, you will see what Baba is saying to do service, etc., etc. So it's very good exercise. It really helped me a lot when I started this. When I was told to do this and I was writing down, it's like I was a lot focused on writing them down. More than paying attention to what is being said. But what happened was later on, I went back and I reviewed it, and I was like, oh, that's what it means. And sometimes I said, no, actually, this doesn't belong to this box. It belongs to this box,
Right.
So again, your intellect is busy with jewels, not with stones. It's busy with pearls, with diamonds, not with, pebbles and stones. Waste thoughts are pebbles and stones. This godly language is pearls and diamonds, and rubies and emerald jewels. So if you don't have any more questions, maybe we can just take a couple of minutes of silence.
Sister, can I ask one question?
Sure.
One question. What would you say to someone who is not successful even when we are putting in our intense efforts? So something as simple as waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I haven't been able to do that, even with my best intentions.
Right.
One of the reasons, obviously, is that I sleep late because I work late also. But I mean, if we have to come up with excuses, there will be many. Even though before sleeping, I sleep with the thought that I have to wake up at 4 o'clock, I still don't. So with that, some simple thing, right? If you can help me with something, then I
I'll share with you the few times the different answers that I got from Daddy Janki, who was the head of the organization. Because every time I have had a very shaky Amrit Vela for years. And one thing that she said the first time was, why don't you just, you cannot get up, just get up and clean up your drawers in the kitchen. Every time, clean up one drawer every day. And I don't know, in 1 week, I finished everything. I finished the attic, the garage, and the kitchen, everything. But it made me feel very good about the whole house is cleared. So it's felt like my mind is cleared. And it gave me the power to get up and sit with Baba. Then I get a bit slack again and I fall asleep and all that. And I asked Daddy again. I went to London to visit family, and then I went to see Daddy and I said, what do I do with Amrit Vela? And she said to me, why don't you recall the number of the times that you had a very beautiful Amrit Vela? That's all she said. And I was remembering this time that I had this experience and this happened between me and Baba, and this experience I had, this message I received, and it was very, very uplifting. So I said to myself, why am I going to remember the good experiences that I had with Baba? Why don't I just create another one, better one? So I got challenged to do it. Oh, she was very clever. And then many years later, when I saw her and I asked her about, what effort I should make in my spiritual practice, she said, never miss Amrit Vela. Not even if you have to go to bed at 3 a.m. Wake up at 4 and do your Amrit Vela and then go back to sleep or do other things. but don't miss it. That's the foundation of your spiritual practice. So that rings in my head a lot because the way she said it was so powerful that I feel now that she left the body and she's in her angelic mode, I feel like she can see me. I'm like, I better not fail. So I do it. And also the thing is that, you know how if you come to class, you're marked as present, and if you don't, you're absent. If you don't wake up for Amrit Vela, you're not necessarily, you're not visible in front of Baba. So you're absent, and he cannot give you the love that you need to start the foundation of your day. So Baba has a lot of respect for all his children. He's never going to impose his love and his discipline and his power on any of us. He will repeat it again and again, what we need to do, but he will never impose it on us. So if I'm not present, he's not going to try to make us present. We have to be present in front of him willingly. So for you to try to do your meditation, your Amrit Vela, what you can do is if you're coming late and you need to wake up early, maybe you start from 5 to 6 instead of 4 to 5 at the beginning. It's just the whole point is to develop a discipline of getting up and showing up in front of Baba. Be there, be present. And remember, I was always late to the center every day. And I once I asked my teacher, should I come if I'm late or should I just stay home? She said, no, I think you should come, because when you come, you begin to develop the sanskara of showing up. So it wasn't so important when I showed up. It was important that I showed up. See the difference?
Yes.
So the
Right.
same thing, you just show up in front of Baba. When right now, he's not caring, when you show up, as long as you show up in front of him and you're consistent, steady, and regular.
So, sister, I have a cheeky suggestion. Do it at 4 o'clock Indian Standard Time.
Very cheeky. I had that thought too. I did it in Chicago time. I did it LA time. I did it Boston time. The point is, I did it.
Yes, true.
So, I remember for a whole 6 months, I did every day at 12 o'clock midday, noontime, 12 to 1. Every day I did it. And it was the most powerful experience I had.
Right.
The most important thing is the regularity and developing that, vibration of power and spirituality in that environment that you have created. And I would recommend that when you're meditating, meditate in a specific place. Don't do it one day in bed and one day on this chair, one day downstairs, one day upstairs, in one place, because that place starts building up a new powerful energy.
So, sister, I have a question. Do you have to face eastward? Or is it, it doesn't matter?
Face upward.
Okay. Okay.
You just in your mind. That's why Baba talks about pilgrimage of remembrance, because this is the only pilgrimage that we don't need to spend money and time and tickets to travel. We just travel with our thoughts.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Thank you
sister.
so much, sister.
Om Shanti, sister.
Om Shanti. Shall we just take a minute of silence together?
Yes.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you very much.
Bless you, sister.